We just, yes, you do. I think we're ready to go. The clock says 6:30. Want to welcome everyone to our Clark County Fiscal Court meeting. We appreciate you taking of your time to be with us here tonight. We do have Pastor Farley Stewart with us from the First United Methodist Church, and I'm going to invite him to come and do our invocation, and then please remain standing for the pledge.
We begin, O God, as we always should, with thanksgiving for all of your blessings. Thank you, Lord, for caring for us and providing for us and for all that you give to us. We come, Lord, as folks who serve our community, gathered to do their work. We pray for our judge executive and all of our magistrates, for our sheriff and police and fire and all of those folks who serve our community so well. We ask, O Lord, that you would give all guidance, that you would give them your hedge of protection, and that you, O Lord, would bless all of the folks whom they serve as we strive, O Lord, to be your people. May all of our people know that there are folks who serve that care for them and do work on their behalf. So we give you our thanks, O God, and pray for your anointing spirit in the name of Christ. Amen.
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 I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Stewart. We appreciate that. Okay, at this time, we will call our meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Present.
Thompson.
Here.
Elkins.
Present.
Davis.
Present.
Blanton.
Here.
And Green is out.
Okay, thank you. Public comments, we do have Merle Combs with us here tonight, and I'm going to invite Merle if he wants to come up front. And you have the floor, sir. Yep, you're number one and the last one.
I have lived in the Boonesboro Providence section of Clark County for over 60 years, and I have to talk to you tonight on two topics. They are both related.
Is that on there?
It's on.
We don't know if the mic's on, Merle. Is it?
Maybe he fixed it that way.
We knew you were coming, didn't we? There we go. Sorry about that, Merle.
First thing, the 4 Mile Road, the last 300 or 400 yards before you get to the 2 Mile Creek boat dock, is very dangerous. That is a small winding road. Even under the best circumstances, is dangerous. But recently, somebody that did some work to it down there, and it is, in my opinion, a lot worse than it was. I know 3 people who won't even drive the road anymore, and one who has taken his boat out of the 2 Mile Creek boat dock because he wouldn't even go up that road. They put some, I'm sure they had the best intentions. They put metal pilings on the riverside of the road, and then filled it in with dirt and rocks and so forth. If you happen to go off a wheel off the road, you've got about 2 foot drop off, which you will not get back on. And there's been quite a few trees cut down there, but there's nothing between you and the road.
Got it.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Just bear with us.
Anyway, I've been in that area since the early 50s. And I have
personally been involved with two different wrecks. Well, I guess you call them wrecks, with people that slipped off the road. And in both cases, they were caught by a tree, which kept us from going in the river. We got the people out and then got the vehicle out. If you do that anymore, you are going in the river. I know there are many places in these small winding roads in Clark County that are in probably the same shape. I know I called it guy at the road department, and we discussed it. He was very nice. But he said there was a lot of places that was just as bad. As far as a correction, I see two things that could be done. I'm sure there's others. You could take off more of the bank there on the upper side and make the road wider. Or you could put, you could put guardrail on the side next to the river, which would probably keep you from going in. But I would like for all of you people in the next month or so to drive down there and just take a look at the situation. So many of you, I'm sure, have not been in that area, and I consider it very dangerous. My other topic is I would like to see us get a launching ramp in the Kentucky River in that area. Madison County has 3 state-owned, operated, maintained launching ramps, at least 3. Estill County, I know, has 2. And we don't have any. We have some private ramps, but they are open intermittently, and they cost quite a bit of money to use. I know the one up at the 2 Mile Creek dock, it costs $10 to launch a boat. People bring little kayaks and things in there. They don't want to pay $10 to launch a boat. We have several places in that area that I believe we could install a ramp. The section above the dam, locking dam number 10 at Boonesboro, is a very beautiful section of river, of water and scenery. And it there's very few houses up in there and kind of remote, and the fishing is excellent. One place that we might be able to get one in is at some of the surplus land because of the Ford power plant shutdown. They have a lot of land down there they're not using. That would be above the dam. Another place would be up closer to what we call the old pump station on up the river a little bit. That recently was sold a couple of years ago, and I would say if you come back down from where those people are living, you could probably buy that land. The Fish and Wildlife Department down at Frankfort has a program where they help communities design and build the ramps. So that would be one thing to help. The river is a great natural resource, and it is grossly underutilized. A lot more underutilized now than it was back in the 50s and 60s. You can go down there on a nice day fishing and you will very seldom see anybody. It's because one thing is because they can't get the boats in. I think that's something we need to think about and see if we can help. I think it would help the economic development of that area. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Combs? Merle, I did drive down there at the urging of some other residents on that road, and I saw what you were talking about where they removed the vegetation and the trees.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a little unnerving when you come down and.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still that way or not, but a few years ago, the school bus wouldn't even drive down there when it had to be on the river side of the road. They would go one way, both times, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Merle.
Okay, moving along, we have minutes of the January 12th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Magistrate Blanton, second by Magistrate Constantopoulos. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Then we have minutes from the January 19th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Magistrate Blanton,
Second.
second by Magistrate Constantopoulos. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. You do have a revised transfer order that Alicia laid at your seat there, and the addition is health insurance. Is that correct?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Magistrate Constantopoulos,
Second.
second by Magistrate Elkins. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then you have your health insurance transfer that Alicia had laid at your desk.
So moved.
A motion by Magistrate Elkins,
Second.
second by Magistrate Blanton. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Then you have your bills list, and we do have a revised bills list that Eric put at your seat. And I'll point out one thing on there that's been added is there's a payment to East Kentucky Power of $1, and that is to secure the agreement for the tower at Ford. So we'll entertain a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
Motion by Magistrate Davis.
Second.
Who said that? Oh, second by Magistrate Thompson. Any discussion? Questions? Okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have an order that would authorize the judge executive to close the, let's see, we didn't say courthouse. We said it, what did we say here? We can close the courthouse to county business, is that right, William?
Correct, because our lease agreement with AOC says only the circuit court judge can close the courthouse to
Right.
AOC business, so.
Right. So we wanted to be careful there.
County affairs.
The county affairs, okay. So that would be the motion.
So moved, Judge.
We'll take a motion by Magistrate Blanton, a second by Magistrate Thompson. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we have an order to purchase new voting equipment.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Magistrate Thompson,
Second.
second by Magistrate Blanton. Discussion?
What was that final amount to go in that blank that we talked about last meeting?
Well, the machines are $131,689. We had a meeting, when was that, Danny, last Thursday, the first meeting? And Karen Sellers, the executive director, told me that she looks for that to be more money that we're gonna be getting.
So what do we need to put in that blank?
So,
It was 57,
well, right here,
No.
up here it says 57.2, but we have to pay for the whole machines
131,689.
and then get reimbursed back by the state. So I guess I'm asking for the whole 131 right now.
Correct.
okay.
Okay.
And the 57, because they've not got, the state does not have the funds yet. They've not, Danny, help me out here. Did they?
They've not distributed them yet.
Right. And they, did they say the end of February, early March now?
Yes,
Okay.
but it sounds like there may be additional funding in what we already talked about last time.
So if we approve the 131, that would allow you to get the machines, and then we can get reimbursed, whatever that reimbursement
Right.
for that, at least 57.2, maybe more.
And we do have a written guarantee or something from them on that 57?
She said when I applied for the money, that was saying that we were gonna get it. If I hadn't applied for it, then we wouldn't have got it, period.
Okay.
So if we don't get it, you'll pay it out of your pocket.
Well, there's somebody's out there that can help me out pay for it.
We'll take up a collection.
Right,
So you want 131,689 in that blank?
yes, that was the bid that Park Enterprises submitted to me.
131,689.
And that should be what is in your order.
Okay.
Yes.
But we don't, it's a blank, so.
Well, right above it says,
Well, we had talked about
Right.
it when we were drafting the order, and the number looked like it was gonna go up, so we didn't put that, the difference between that 131 and the 57, whatever it was. There was some possibility that we could have heard more about it today, but haven't heard yet.
right,
So that okay, that blank's 131,689.
that 131 will buy all the machines for the 4 voting centers and for trash.
Okay.
And a spare for here in case one goes down. That will get us through the election.
Okay, any more questions on? Okay, I think we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all.
Now, we have a lease agreement on our tower on Highway 89 Irvin Road, and the county attorney was gracious enough to revise the old lease that was 20 years old, I guess it was, and bring everything up to date, and we've tried to get, and this would be, the city would be a party to this, and we, the county attorney has talked with the city attorney, and we've got everything and in line, we think, and we want the fiscal court's approval to move ahead by approving the form of this list.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Magistrate Constantopoulos.
I did have one, I guess, question or comment, but would it, shouldn't we name Mr. Berryman's marital status? I know it's not a deed, but if he is single, we put in there single. If he is married, even if she's not on the deed, maybe list her and then have her sign that, just to extinguish any question about the dower interest.
You know, in contract, you know, he's making a representation to the fiscal court that he has the legal capacity to, you know, to enter into the lease. If you look at the deeds that lay in the background, he's actually a 3/4 undivided interest holder in the whole with his wife Susan. I don't think there's any question legally that he has the ability to contract with us. Now, will she make some claim later? My understanding is that her health is not conducive to either participating or rejecting. But he also didn't present any power of attorney of her. So my recommendation would be, and I think Mr. Dyckman's was too, that unless there was something more, that the contract was the proper form.
Thank
It's
you.
not perfect, but it's the proper form.
Other concerns, comments, anyone? Okay, I think we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will enter the date that we sign this. Is that correct? The authority today would be for me to sign it.
They've given you the authority to sign it. A contract containing blanks is always subject to being filled in by the agreement of the parties.
Okay. All righty, now we have a request from Parks and Recreation. They had a HVAC that failed at the maintenance garage, and Magistrate Blanton may have more information on this. The city, they'd asked the city to fund a quarter of it, the county to fund a quarter of it, and then Parks and Rec were gonna fund a quarter, or excuse me, half out of their, I guess their, out of their budget.
Mhm.
They're operating?
Yeah.
They're going, okay.
Mhm.
And I'll try to, like I said, I'll try to answer any questions I can. Magistrate Blanton will try.
The city have already approved their quarter. Parks Board looked at it Monday night, so wishes of the court.
Where would we get the money from in the budget? Have we looked at that yet?
I'm looking at the county treasurer.
Funds are available for that amount.
In the Parks and Rec operating budget?
No,
No.
not in their line item, specifically, that's already in the budget, no.
So we do have funds available to transfer into that.
Correct.
From
out of the contingent.
What do we have left in that?
That's the one that we just, I did a budget amendment for, 500,000, so it's got a significant amount in there.
They're nonprofit, we could also use the community fund for that. I know we used it for when we had to replace the lights, in the pool system. We paid our portion that we contributed to that out of the community fund. And there's ample funds that it's already allocated in there that haven't been, reserved or spoken for, I guess is a better phrase for it, that we could use.
I guess we would consider where the money would come from probably next meeting. Is that correct? You're just wanting us to agree to?
If you go ahead and move this ahead with this, will we have a transfer at the next meeting? That's probably, and then the invoice will be paid at the next meeting.
So moved.
Okay. Have a motion by Magistrate Elkins.
Second.
Second by Magistrate Blanton. Any further discussion?
I do have one question. The transfer would be out of the general fund though. Do we have money in the community fund to take it out without doing a transfer or no?
We can pay out of the community fund without a transfer. If we're paying in the general fund, I would need to transfer to the Parks and Rec on a line item in order for it to be correct. So it would just be from whichever outweigh that you all you feel is the most appropriate to pay from.
I'm good either way as far as I'm concerned.
My opinion is to pay it from the general fund.
Works for me.
Okay. Any
Leave it
other?
at the pleasure of the judge and the treasurer, I would suppose.
Call for the question.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have noted in the minutes pay increases for February 2022. Don't have any closed session, but I got a couple other items that I wanted to get your all's opinion on. Well, the first one is jail report. We've got a jail report in front of you, and if we could note that in the minutes. And then Janet and I have been meeting with the agent of record that the fiscal court appointed at our special called meeting. And we've run into some challenges. And what I would like to ask the court tonight, Janet and I and the agents of record have discussed if we could get 2 magistrates and myself, that way we would not have a quorum with the fiscal court. And then Janet and, of course, inform a committee to address some of these, and then we could bring recommendations back to the fiscal court. And so my recommendation of the magistrates, if they would be willing to serve, would be Greg and Daniel. If we could form a committee and just look at what they're finding out for us, and then, we would bring any recommendations would finally have to be approved by the fiscal court as a body anyway. So
I'd be glad to help if I can.
I mean, does that sound like a reasonable way to proceed?
Sounds like an expedite thing, so go to it.
Okay. Well, with the court's approval on a motion, I will offer up a motion to appoint myself, Magistrate Elkins, Magistrate Constantopoulos, and Janet to work with the agents of record.
Second.
Second by Magistrate Davis. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Okay, incentive pay. We got incentive pay notices from the Department for Local Government for 3 magistrates, and I usually put those on the agenda, bring them to the court, but I didn't get them timely enough to put them on this agenda. Do y'all want to go ahead and approve them, or just put them on next time's agenda?
Doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay.
Whatever your
Next time,
pleasure is.
next time be.
Next time?
Yeah,
Yeah, just
I would
wait.
think that way
It would work a lot better if we did it this time, or it's gonna need to, because all the elected officials, they get like their pay on the first paycheck of the month. So that means you all would have to wait another month to get the incentive pay.
Okay
So that's
with
up to you all.
Sorry we've been difficult.
No, I didn't get my letter till yesterday, I think.
Well,
so
and.
You probably got it the same day
I
got
do, and
mine.
you're one of them.
I don't think it dropped to like the 25th.
It didn't.
Yeah,
It didn't.
so it
And
wouldn't, I didn't expect it to be on this agenda anyway.
So, I mean, if you didn't get it until March, that's no problem?
No problem for me.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
I appreciate that though, but
All right. And the last thing I got is a little bit of good news. We spent $19,400 on the HVAC up in the circuit courtroom, and ALC has agreed to pay $8,600 back. So
nice.
we're good there.
With the phone call, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was. So that come in. And then the last thing I have, and this is just to kind of maybe provoke some thought, is I've been talking to some of the department heads. With Omicron out there, we're having some COVID quarantine, employees off on quarantine. And we do not have, I could not find a policy where we offer a quarantine. They have to use their sick leave. And I'm not sure if that's something you all want to discuss, or what your thoughts are on it. And this is just a discussion. It's.
I can tell you what I do at my business. I don't know if it is proper or not, but if the employee has taken every precaution that they can take, like vaccinated and boosted and all that, I pay them 40 hours. If they haven't taken those precautions, I just give them the time off and they can quarantine.
Without pay?
Without pay, correct.
Okay.
Or use their time.
Yep.
Or use
Or
their sick
use their
time.
time, correct.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's reasonable. That's
Because it can't help it if they've taken all the precautions that we know to take. They've done everything they can do, then it's not really their fault that the health department makes them quarantine. So
Okay.
that's how we view it.
I tell you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
You know, one thing we do is you gotta, you're the quarantine aspect of it is you gotta have some record of them being put in quarantine.
We do that as well, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Would that be the positive result, Daniel, that they get? Would that be the record?
I think it would be the positive result, but like my business, I can only speak for my business, is, you know, my employees will work while they're at home because they have that capability. You know, unless they're really bad, and, you know, then we address that differently. But
We
I
also
think,
have
but
a
with
stop.
you, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it, but I think you have to have some type of proof, or you could have potentially anybody saying, well, I'm on quarantine, but I think the positive test is
Is a
appropriate.
good, okay.
Positive test in a maximum of 10 days.
Max 10 days?
That's what we do, yes.
What about if I work with HR, with Janet, and try to develop something to bring back to you all? Would that be okay?
Yeah, it'd be good with
And I'll,
me. I
of
just was
course-
throwing out ideas for discussion.
Yeah, that's all we're doing right now, and anything that we draft, I'll run by the county attorney before we bring it back to you all for legality.
Yeah, it'd be,
It may have expired, but wasn't there there was something enacted where you had to pay for COVID leave?
That went away when
It
the
did
governor,
go away.
when the
That went
governor
away.
lost his powers.
Okay.
but a man might look at that or look at that for a guideline too as to how it was before. But
It's what the
it-
federal,
I think the state had a guideline out for quarantine, how to handle quarantines at one point, but I think it expired several months ago, maybe a year ago even, so.
okay.
And one thing that needs to be considered is you need to pick one platform to go off of, meaning you either go off the CDC, because you pull up on the internet and you'll have the CDC saying one thing, you'll have the governor's office saying one thing, you have the health department saying another thing.
Joe Rogan.
Huh?
Joe Rogan saying another thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you go off the CDC, if the CDC says if you test positive, it's X amount of days that you need to stay in, you follow that guidelines, and if it's 5, 8, 10, 12 days, and I think it ought to fluctuate based on the way the CDC guidance is.
What we've got in right now, we've circulated to the departments is the local health board, health departments, guidelines. That's what we've been using. If you test positive, this happens. If you're exposed, this happens, and there's different criteria for each thing there. So is that okay to use the local health department?
Judge, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
As someone that was affected by this recently, I had to quarantine because my wife tested positive, but I never actually tested positive. And I used my sick time to cover the days the health department said I had to quarantine because of exposure. You guys are, what happens to the employees that are exposed? You want documentation, which I think is fine, of a positive test. Does this policy apply to those who have to quarantine because the health department says they're exposed?
But see, that's where the confusion's coming in, because the CDC says if you're vaccinated
don't have
and you
to.
have an exposure, you don't have to quarantine. In the health department, they're not calling people anymore and
No.
talking to them and saying that you have to quarantine. There's so many cases they can't keep up with them, and they sent that out. You were on the email, I'm sure, that Becky had sent out, that they stopped doing that because there's just so many cases that there's no way they can do the contact tracing and find out who it is. So it's,
I just wanted to ask that question.
And I appreciate
yeah,
that,
I
Eric.
appreciate it. No, I just,
Because,
Because the recommendation was 5 days at home,
mhm,
since I am vaccinated, because of exposure. That's what was recommended.
that was the recommend.
You
Yeah.
can contact the health department, that was their recommendation. So I just wanted to bring that into the discussion as well.
And I appreciate that
Some employees
because
face that problem.
this helps us put a face to the concern that I'm bringing forth here. So I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you.
and I agree, and I think that's what one of the issues is, and I think people are confused about it, is because the health department will say one thing, the CDC will say one thing, and then they'll get on TV and they'll say another thing, and it's just confused everybody. Well, what am I supposed to do when I get? So I mean, we need to pick one, whether it be the CDC or whatever it may be, and go based on those guidelines and just stick to them. And as they change, and with the changing of the pandemic, then ours should automatically change with that, where we don't have to keep reapproving it.
Right, right.
I actually called the auditor's office over one of my employees, and like Travis said, they told me that was over, and they had to take sick time.
They have to take sick, yeah. That's,
That was for the auditor's office.
well, and that's what we found. We found, oh, yes, Chief.
Judge, I just want to also say that it's heavy in our department right now. And the problem we're seeing is I got some new employees that don't have enough sick time to carry them through their, where we're isolating them or quarantining them. So I've had to donate sick time to those employees to carry them through. Problem I'm at now, if I've donated my maximum that I'm allowed to, and I'm only allowed to drop down to 75 hours. So if we could probably relax that a little bit, I can continue to give some of those employees some of my sick time. Hopefully I don't get it either, but
Right.
that's why I'm wearing a mask tonight, because I've been around several of them that do have it, but I've been vaccinated. So I just want the court to be aware of that as well, that we are donating sick time for those employees, that those employees that have it are starting to run low themselves, so they can't go below a certain number as well.
You sit there all by yourself then.
I don't believe I have. I'm just saying.
I don't believe I'm gonna hug you.
And in the case where we have someone that can work from home, and we actually have that situation now as well, then we will do that also. And that way they won't have to use any of the COVID leave time.
And I think you immediately get like that remote PC to where they can access their PC directly here from a computer.
Yeah, and we desperately want to talk with someone that could,
Yeah,
provide
and I was
that.
gonna send you an email on this. I talked to my people, they only deal with healthcare.
Okay.
But I would refer to Greg said he had a contact that he could refer, that'd be willing to get that stuff set up.
Data Solutions out of Lexington is who I use.
And I think to muddy the waters even more, the guidelines are different for first responders than,
It is different.
Yeah.
they're much more lax for first responders, because they can't be short, so.
Okay. And you're talking about like you're talking about not the health department guidelines, but like CDC guidelines? Okay,
It's health department as well, so.
okay. Okay. Well, this-
Where's the health department and all these where are these different numbers coming from? Is it, I don't know the answer.
I don't know, the only one I pay attention to is health department. Because I figure they're our public health service for this community. But certainly, I would say the fiscal court we could adopt our own policy.
And we adopted ours in our business, what we were gonna do,
You know.
and consulted with different medical professionals.
Well, be thinking about it. We'll work on some things to bring back for you all to look at, and if you have any ideas, please feel free to call Janet or myself and bring those forth. Okay, I'll be quiet now. That's all I have. We have magistrate comments. Let's start down here at the fourth with Magistrate Elkins.
One thing, Judge, pretty big thing, actually. The fire committee has tried to meet 2 or 3 times and for various reasons have not been able to. So the chief has brought to the fire committee individually, one at a time, a fire truck issue, or not issue, a fire truck potential, I guess. We're gonna have to purchase a new fire truck at some point. I think we were planning to purchase to budget to purchase a new fire truck in next year's budget. Full disclosure, there's no money in this year's budget to purchase one. But there's a couple of things going on with fire trucks. We have one that we can order new, which will be about $675,000, and then once you outfit it, it'll be an additional $40,000, which makes it about $715,000. And trucks, the cost of trucks are getting ready to go up again in probably April, before the new fiscal year budget would come out. So, and they'll go up as much as 10 or 15%. So you can tack 10 or 15% on top of that. So you'll be getting up close to $800,000 at that point for a new fire truck. There is currently a fire truck available, a demo, I guess it's still available. It has about 20,000 miles on it. They're all road miles. It's never been used, I don't think, to fight a fire. It's just been from one city to the other, showing it off so people could see it and order new ones. We could purchase that fire truck now for $575,000 plus about $60,000 to outfit it, so it's about $635,000. Should be saving probably close to or more than $100,000 if we did something to buy this demo truck now, which is a new truck, other than the 20,000 miles on it. It would enjoy the full warranty, just like it was brand new pulling off the lot. So just something for the court to think about, study on. The committee has not had a chance to meet to make a recommendation to the court, but I think the fire truck, if we were to be considering the demo, would need to look at that pretty quick, maybe even tonight. And yeah, Eric has pictures of the demo truck up there that you can look at now.
And this is one that's already spec'd out pretty much to what you all have been discussing.
It is. It's a truck and chassis. It doesn't have all the equipment and lettering on it that we would need. That would cost about an additional $60,000 on top of the $575,000.
We have to pay for that now.
We would probably have to do something to pay for it now, either borrow the money but yes, we talked about it, and I think the deal was if we bought this one and ordered another one, we wouldn't have to pay for it now, but if we want that one by itself, we have to pay for it now, so.
But if we decided to move forward with the finance option, probably since we've only got roughly, 5 months left in the fiscal year, we're probably looking at $30,000 we'd have to come up to the budget, or come up with in the budget to.
30 to 50 probably to make 3 or 4 or 5 payments, over what it would be on it, yeah.
But the other thing would probably be, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we financed it, we'd have to do a budget amendment to show the revenue coming in and the revenue going out of what we actually financed. So regardless, we're going to have to do a budget amendment if we move forward anyway.
ARPA money out.
Yeah, that's.
What was the
that's not an
deal?
option.
What was the
Didn't think
deal
so.
if you take this one and order another one?
If we took this one and ordered another one, they would probably let us defer payment until the next fiscal year.
On this one?
On this one, correct, yep.
On the
But we
demo?
only need one truck, those the problem.
Oh.
Chief's probably gonna say I'd like to have two, but that's why I didn't look at him when I said that.
We had discussed, putting those trucks on a schedule. The one that this one would be replacing is scheduled for next year. The one that is scheduled next year would be the new. So we do have 2 trucks in 2 years. And that would put us on a 5 to 6 year rotation at that point, as we had discussed briefly.
Which is really another option. I mean, you can rotate one out. If you order a new one, you're probably 12 to 15 months.
That's what I was getting ready to say, it's gotta
delivery
be-
on it, so, yeah.
And if we wait to order it, it's gonna be significantly more, I promise you.
It will go up 10 to
Significantly more.
15%. You and I both know that. We
Significant, because I'm dealing with that right now,
Yep.
If,
so.
if I may, it is 400 days to get another truck. So the demonstration model we can take possession of now, but the new one will take at least 400 days to build. So the longer we delay that, the longer the truck is to get here. And just yesterday, or excuse me, if I may, was it the day before, Greg? They just had a price increase of 7% yesterday.
And you probably have 2 that are ready to roll out of service now. You definitely will have another one that's ready to roll out of service in 400 days.
The 2 we're trying to replace, I've already spent $15,000 in engine
Yeah,
costs this
yeah.
year, and then engine 1, we spent $25,000 last year to rebuild it.
Which one would you replace first?
Engine 2 is the oldest,
Yeah.
it is 10 years old.
And I wish we could have had a fire committee meeting to have brought a recommendation from the full committee, but we just have had to cancel 2 or 3 recently, so.
I don't want to speak for the court, but I'll speak for me. I'd like to see us take this and order another one, and that would defer the payment till the next budget. And that would get you in pretty darn good shape.
Yes, sir. It will put the county in
I've been on the radio at night when your trucks have went down when they were on their way to calls, and that's never an easy feeling for me as a magistrate or as a first responder, so.
Well, the truck engine 2 is the truck we're replacing. The backup truck that we had in its place also went down. So we're needing 2 trucks.
And I think you're gonna see it get to where you can't even order one right now. I think it's not even gonna be an option at some point in 2022. So I think that puts us ahead of the curve.
And that would prevent a budget amendment as well.
Yeah. That's why I like the deferred payment.
Well, because you're not gonna have the second truck until actually
Yes, sir.
2024
And it gives the judge,
budget.
So when would we lock in our financing? And the rate, most importantly.
We could go ahead and try to lock that in immediately if you all give me permission to move ahead.
Well,
But
I
we
mean,
would defer payment.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm historically, this is probably the lowest rates we may see
and
in
it's,
our
and it's gonna
lifetime.
climb in March.
I agree with
they're
that.
I
already
mean,
talking
the
about it.
Fed's already said they're gonna
Yeah,
start
yeah.
raising the Fed funds rate in March. So we've got less than
Just a matter
a
of
month
time.
and a half to lock in, and probably the lowest rate we'll ever see.
Okay.
So that's my thinking. If we do this, let's lock that rate in as quickly as we can.
I would offer that up as a motion, Judge.
One second before
Go
your
ahead.
motion.
Go ahead.
I agree with you.
Go ahead.
But procurement, do we have to do anything special because, do we need to bid this out specifically because it's a demo? Or, I mean, what's your legal advice on that?
That's a good question.
Any purchase that you make over $30,000 is supposed to be bid. I think if you bid this and bid it in a hurry, you'll get back the answers that you need. Nobody else is gonna offer you this truck at that value, so.
That was
So
my
maybe the
question.
motion needs to be to offer up a bid. That's a good
I'll
question.
second that.
What was the motion?
To offer up a bid both for this truck and the ordering of a new one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think Chief can help you with the language if
Okay, the language in the particulars of.
he knows what he needs.
Okay. So that's a motion by Magistrate Thompson, second by Magistrate Constantopoulos. Okay.
Do we need to you need any further authorization?
Well, and I was going to add, if you would add to your motion in second to authorize me to move ahead with trying to secure a CAECO loan and financing
Yes.
rate.
Yes, 100%.
But until we have those final numbers, it's gonna be hard
It's gonna be hard to do that.
to do that.
They will let you vary a little. Keiko will. We could give them an
Yeah.
approximate number, and then they'll let us come back and take away or add
Give you
to.
some wiggle room.
Yes.
Well, you pretty much know what the demo will be.
Chief, the one you order, would it be the 675 plus the 40 that Magistrate Elkins talked about?
Yes, sir. It would
Okay.
be somewhere in that, yeah, I
Okay.
believe we can get, it's pretty much the same truck again, but it would cost $675.
Okay.
This is $575. Is there, do we have the ability to do a co-op purchase where you don't have to get it? You know, I've been told by some vendors that you have the ability to do a co-op, go through some sort of co-op.
We can, but I think it's only through state contract.
State contract.
No, you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, people-
So in this-
A lot of other state agencies get that mixed up.
Yeah.
Anybody on the state contract could bid on it, but they would have to, they couldn't bid higher than the state contract.
Thank you.
Which assures that you would get that best rate.
Right. Okay.
But somebody could bid lower
Without-
than the
that's right,
state
without
contract.
cutting out the possibility that somebody bid lower.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think this
Yeah.
is a better way to go. One, it's more transparent so that the public knows what we got planned, because since it wasn't on the agenda.
Right.
And then two, I had the same question about procurement. I didn't know how we could do it without going through
It
procurement.
looks like we're spending a lot of money, and we are, but the savings will be huge.
Yeah.
Well, the fact is, I mean, we have to do it.
Yep.
I mean, that's a basic level of county service, and you don't get any more fundamental than fire protection. So, I mean, if we've got trucks going down routinely or enough to where it's a concern and a danger, then we got to do it, so. But I think it's great if, it'd be fantastic if we could lock in that, super low interest rate. I think one of the recent ones was like, well, maybe just a little over 1% we did. I don't remember what the project was now, but
At the refunding.
refinancing, we refinanced a couple of
Wow.
those, so that's, just to get it while we can.
We'll certainly contact Keiko tomorrow and try to let you all know something by email.
We can get this out bid on Monday and then,
We'll get the bid out. I think we have to leave it out 7 days and bring it back in
I
and
mean, we
open it.
could, Chief, you feel good, confident that we can act on this at our next fiscal court meeting?
Yeah, I know. It just keeps going up.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you
other
for-
questions?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Magistrate Elkins.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Greg, do you have anything else?
Nothing other than to say, I agree with Magistrate Blanton that I don't like doing this without it being on the agenda, but it was kind of, had to be done now, and I called the judge, we talked about it a little bit, so nobody got blindsided, and I want to thank the court, and I'm sure, speaking for the chief, we want to thank the court for considering that, so.
Glad
thank
you brought it up.
Chris?
Thank you. Couple of things. First of all, some of you may know that our January meeting for the Sanitary Sewer Board was canceled, but we are going to, I assume, have our February meeting, which we've been doing on the third Thursday of the month, which will be, if my calendar's right, February 17th at 5 p.m. We typically have those here in the fiscal courtroom, and just encourage anybody that's interested or have any questions to come and listen. I think that Kentucky American Water has a presentation which they had hoped to do for the January meeting. Weren't able to do that, but I understand are going to be ready to present at the February meeting, and they have a proposal that they want to discuss with the sewer board. So we're interested to hear what they're going to have to say. And also our contact funding person at Bluegrass Ad, Karen Leverance, usually will be there, as well as Stephanie Blaine, who's our engineer at Palmer. And I expect they'll have some things for us to address, and questions and answers about funding that'll be coming up. It looked like from the scoring that we were very competitive. I don't know if you saw that email, Henry. That
I did.
about a month or
I
two
don't
ago.
understand a lot of it, but I
We,
did see
we
it.
scored, I think, was about
Number two.
second, number two,
Yeah, number
as
two.
far as potential for funding. And, that, a lot of that is driven by the income levels in that area, people who'd be served. We've got mobile home parks out there that are in need of this, namely Yorktown in my district. We've got a lot of other people that are interested in this too. Verna Hills over on US 60, they've got a package plant that's almost probably close to 50 years old. although theirs is very well maintained. They're really interested in this process too, and getting it over to Vernon Hills as soon as possible. And so we're hoping to make some strides there. There is, I will just say this as a side note, I know we've not made any more decisions on the ARPA funds, but water and sewer is one area that I think we are able to use ARPA, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, but I've chatted a couple times just briefly with Karen at Bluegrass Ad about that, and of course she does water and sewer, so she's a big fan of using ARPA funds for that. So we might have some opportunities there that we could use ARPA funds for that maybe we wouldn't qualify for the CDBG funding or the forgivable loans, but may have an opportunity for ARPA funds, since that won't be really driven by income levels of the residents affected. But we'll explore that some with Karen, and so which was kind of lead me to my next subject, and I guess a question is if we had any idea or thoughts about when we were going to do either a special meeting or put ARPA on the agenda for a regular meeting just for discussion or
We can
public
do
comment.
it, we could do it the next meeting, or I can call a special meeting, whatever is pleasure of the court.
I don't know what we need as far as time frame. I would think at least maybe by March, maybe our March meeting, one or both of those meetings.
Do a report in March.
Would you rather us have that maybe in February or wait till after the March report? What's your preference, since you're doing the reporting
Before the March.
before the March?
But that's-
vote?
Either in February or March.
But for us just to brainstorm and have discussions and get public input or whatever, I mean, that's not gonna cause any expenditures. It would-
No,
No.
that
it
won't
would-
change
It would
anything.
hurt, it would hurt your reporting, would it?
Yeah.
No,
So it doesn't matter if
I'm
it's.
supposed to, I report the expected.
Maybe
I
here,
expect it.
maybe the second meeting in February, because that would be after the sewer board meeting, and we'd kind of hear what Karen has to say at Bluegrass Ad, and then also what if anything Kentucky American has, and at that point, maybe the board may even have a request or a recommendation. I mean, it's, Mr. Tierney's the board chairman. I don't chair that, but just a thought.
And that would be, the second meeting in February would be our 6:30 meeting like this one.
It would be, yes.
And I guess we could put on the website, you said you wanted to advertise for public input. that
Well,
we're
I
go-
mean,
We're gonna
obviously,
be discussing
Or
it.
maybe
that-
put together, I mean, just to brainstorm on the process, do we wanna
Yeah.
have, how do we wanna do public input?
They could submit comments on the website. I mean, that might be the best way of doing it.
or just come to public comment. And,
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
We could mention that we're gonna have a little more detailed discussion with regard to ARPA
but in the regular scheduled meeting.
in the regular scheduled
I think
meeting, and
that's
just
fine.
invite citizens to come and give input.
If we could make that second meeting, I know some things come up we have to address, but if we can make it a little lighter, just so we have a little more time for people to come and make comments or questions or suggestions, and all of us too. I mean, everybody here, I'm sure, have an opinion or
Okay.
just a thought.
And the sanitation district was also awarded $600,000 from the state.
I think so, yeah. I don't know if it's been received yet, has it? Is that just allocated, but not, we haven't gotten it?
And that's one of the things I don't understand. We have not received any
Check.
check, or you have to fill out the form first.
No.
You mean that big
Now-
one wasn't any good that was right here?
I'm sorry?
That big one wasn't any good that was right here?
I tried to cash it.
Yeah.
Do we hold funds for the sanitation district at the fiscal court?
Well,
Has that been discussed?
We haven't even been discussed yet because we haven't expended or received anything
Because that's
yet.
something you and I are
So,
gonna have to discuss, because we will, if we are holding that for them, I think we have to put that in a different checking account.
I think we'd have to
I'm
create a
sure.
new account, but no money's been received that I know
No,
of.
no.
And so we haven't
And-
expended
right.
anything. And what we have expended for the engineering was just from a line item that I guess we'd created in that last fiscal year's budget.
And that came out of the local ARPA, I think, didn't it? The money we spent for the engineering, didn't we take that out of the local? No.
I don't think so.
But
No, we-
the 600,000 we received is above and beyond
Yeah.
our 7 million that we're gonna receive for local
Right,
money.
right,
It'll be in addition to.
right.
So,
Yeah, but I think, I mean, it should be tailored, I would think, after East Clarkwater, the way that theirs is being, the way that theirs is handled. I
Well,
would think.
see, they're established, and this happened many years ago. The fiscal court used to maintain funds for East Clark Water District.
Yeah.
But now they are kind of separated out. They have their own checking account. They do their own audits, the whole 9 yards.
And I think that makes sense since they have a customer base. They've got their own
Right.
revenue.
And that will
stream.
eventually maybe happen to the sanitation
It
district.
would. I think even if it was a system where, and I don't know that it'll work this way, but let's say there's not a lot of customers, a few hundred, and if the sewer board contracted their work out to a management firm or whatever, and there are companies, I think, that do that for real small systems and small districts. It may not be the case, may not be what the board decides to do, but I do think for now, of the circumstances, because it's still in the planning and design
That's
phase, that
right.
we're going to probably have to hold
That-
those funds and disperse.
Right, we can hold the funds and do the administrative work.
I mean, I think the board would still take votes on the expenditures and
Right.
proposals and so forth, but I think for now, I don't know how we could do it any other way.
Right.
But have the court hold that.
Okay.
But anyway, that's.
Good discussion.
I just wanted to bring that up and would mention that because I do think there'll be some opportunities and there may be some things that we even discuss in the next board meeting in February, and we'll look forward to that. And we're really getting a good help from Ms. Leverins there at Bluegrass Ad and from our engineering firm at Palmer. They're doing a great job, and so it's just as most of us all know, these funding mechanisms and grants, it's just a cumbersome, sometimes long process. But in any event, appreciate everybody's help and support. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Robert?
I had an ARPA comment too, but it kind of went a different direction. I noticed those final rules come out, and I'm sure Alicia knows about them. But there was a section there dealing with the $10 million. If you receive less than $10 million, and you could most likely qualify as lost revenue, and you could just flip that over into your general fund and not have to worry about all those stipulations and requirements. So that may be something. I think we have to do some calculations to show them do we have any idea what we were going to stand on that? Not yet.
No,
But you think we can do that, or will we need to have someone assist us in doing those calculations?
I think that I can do it.
You think you can do them? Okay. Well, if we can, that might solve a whole lot of issues if we can just, because I think that's what the city is talking about doing, just flipping their money to lost revenue and still spending on what they would normally spend it on,
Right.
but they wouldn't have those other restrictions. So
Right.
if we could kind of go down that road, that might be a good exercise to go through. Then the other thing, a couple other things. I know, speaking of the city, you had sent us, Henry, the administrative hearing board amendments,
Yes.
and I think the city's already
They've
approved
already
theirs,
read
and
them.
we need to, if we're going to do that, we need to follow up and do ours.
Right.
If we could get that on an agenda so we could kind of be in concert with what they're doing at the same time. And then, speaking of administrative codes, we looked at ours back in June or July, and I think there were some changes. And if we're going to do this thing on sick time with COVID and that sort of thing, that might be a good time to look at that and put that all together in that administrative code changes and do them all at once.
Okay.
Because we still haven't approved those changes. I think Judge Pace was looking at some changes, and we never did get that back to give the final review on.
So we need to amend and approve with the changes.
That's my recollection. I may be wrong, but that was, I know.
Because I assume whatever we change, if we're gonna do it, because I have to have 2 readings and advertise and do it.
Exactly.
Do it all at once.
You can do it all, put it all together. I think he said he had some things, and I think I had some
I'm
comments.
not aware of them, but I'm sure
But that's-
Janet
Yeah.
probably.
So
is aware
She
of
is.
them.
If we could do that, Henry, that's all I've got.
Okay. Daniel?
2 things, just fire department again, just to bring everybody up to speed. On the aerial truck, when they originally purchased that, they had applied for the grant funding. It was $1 million grant for a new aerial truck. So that's been put out to the grant process. I did reach out to Congressman Barr and office, and they're going to be, putting a letter of recommendation that we get that federal funding for that. So that's one thing that's in the hopper. And then, second thing, last court meeting I'd mentioned to you, or maybe the previous one, AT&T, the discussions as far as increasing broadband to those that are not served and underserved. And they will be, hopefully, have something by that second meeting in February, some information to be able to disseminate to the court. So that may be a good time as well when we're discussing the ARPA funds. And that's all I got.
All right, Travis?
Just one request for you, Judge. I have some other complaints besides the one we got tonight about 4 miles. So if maybe myself and you and Alan could go down there
Okay.
next week or something and
That'd be good.
look at that and
Right.
come up with something.
Okay.
I'll fill you in on the other complaints when we're down there, but I've got several. I haven't been able to get down there though with the snow, so
Okay. I'll get with Alan and get a day and coordinate that. And
I appreciate
get it
that.
Yeah,
set up.
Merle said he had talked with Alan. He said there wasn't no requirement for guardrails, and I
Yeah,
don't,
and Alan and I have had this conversation as well, because when I went down, upon request of a couple of other residents beside Mr. Combs, and then we call it the MUCNI, the manual that's the traffic, uniform traffic citation. And when you get outside their recommendations, they're not hard line recommendations, but when you get outside the recommendations, it leaves local governments open for liability. And that's the reason of Alan's concern. And,
And he's not wrong. I've seen
Right.
that, but some of the other complaints I've gotten, I've not been able to look at yet, but I've seen that one and
but
and
I've
he's
talked.
not wrong.
And this is something I need to discuss with the county attorney. I've talked with some other counties with regard to not having the road departments install the guardrails. But the fiscal court, as a legislative body, would actually contract it out of the general fund budget, and that changes the dynamic somehow, and I don't know, but maybe we can get together and discuss that more.
Well, probably add some liability carrier, behind the contractor, if we see to that. But make no mistake about it, they'll sue every pocket that.
So you're not going to escape it. You might mitigate it some.
Name's gonna be on the front page.
But yeah, we'll get together and go
Thank
down
you.
there.
And if that comes out of general fund, that's going, that guardrail's not expensive, or not cheap.
No.
no, there's several hundred feet of it. I mean, I've been down there and looked at it, took pictures, and it's,
It's probably close to $100 a foot, isn't it?
I don't know what it is, but it's probably 300-400 feet of guardrail would be needed, I would think.
But we'll go down and look at those concerns. Do you have anything else, Jeff?
No, sir, thank you.
All right, I think we've come to the end of our meeting. If anybody
Motion to
wants-
adjourn.
Motion by Magistrate Blanton, second by Magistrate Constantopoulos. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's okay.